Hello and welcome to the Ins and Outs of Work, an HR and Future of Work podcast for everyone. For HR professionals who know their stuff, managers in organizations big and small, or inquisitive employees who just have an interest in how the world of work is changing. My name is Joe, not an HR person by any means, but here as the HR outsider to give an outsider's view.
And my name is Nelly, your resident HR insider. I'm an experienced HR writer, speaker, and enthusiast with an international background. On this podcast, we do things a bit differently, with an inside-out and outside-in perspective, all rolled together. We speak with industry experts and HR bigwigs about how work is changing in 2021.
And today on the podcast, we speak with Dmytro Okunyev, CEO of Chanty. How are you going, Nelly?
Good. What about you?
Brilliant. Very well, thanks. So today the topic is collaboration, Nelly, a big topic in the world of work, something I want to get better at.
Yeah, me too. Of course.
Of course, don't we all? And we talked to Dmytro about that. He is CEO of a company called Chanty, basically a collaboration software based in Zurich, European born. And it was a fantastic conversation. We touched on a bunch of different topics, from what a great meeting looks like, how to maybe avoid meetings.
Yes, absolutely. And we also talked about how you can build a great team in 2021. Of course, we did touch on the challenges of a more remote environment. And really, I'd encourage you to listen all the way to the end of the episode, because Dmytro shared an absolute brilliant challenge with us. I think it's maybe my favorite challenge so far, Joe.
Big time. I think it could be mine too. I personally felt challenged and empowered, and so many good things.
Yeah.
So do listen all the way on through. Before we jump to the episode, want to encourage you, as always, that if you are enjoying this podcast, please do subscribe to it. Leave a lovely review and a rating, 5-star rating, please, on Apple Podcasts. That would help us out a lot. And share it with a friend. And but that's about it. We'll jump to the episode. Enjoy.
Happy listening.
Brilliant to have you here with us, Dmytro. How are you today?
Hi guys, I'm great. What about you?
Awesome. We're doing very well.
We are. We're very happy that you are here with us today, Dmytro.
Likewise.
So, can you start perhaps by telling us a little bit more about yourself and, of course, what you're doing at Chanty?
Sure. Yes, I have 10 years of entrepreneurial experience. I'm a founder of 4 companies. One of them is Chanty. I started it in 2017, and right now, this year, 2021, we are on the edge of team collaboration software with more than 70,000 of teams registered.
Wow. And can you just maybe talk us through really quickly, Dmytro, like the functionality of Chanty, what you're trying to build?
Sure. This is a communication collaboration platform. Basically, we are trying to replace few applications from our users' desktops to be chat and video communication tool and task management tool all together. So by mixing up this experience, we provide one seamless experience between all the major components of team communication collaboration these days.
Okay, brilliant. It's such a big topic, and that's the topic of today's episode is collaboration, and really trying to explore with you, Dmytro, as our expert for today, what collaboration, what it really can look like, and what great collaboration looks like in 2021. So as a kind of opening question, it's a big one, but what does great collaboration look like at work in 2021?
Look, nothing has drastically changed. Basically, that's the understanding and following the same goal and respecting of time of your peers, by achieving this goal. Obviously, this question lays a lot in the area of communication and how we talk to each other, how we work with each other, and there are many ways how to do that. It could be verbally, could be some visually, so it depends. But all in all, it's just understanding how you can use your time and tools together to actually, achieve something together.
Yes. And if we were to focus on the other side of that, what would you say are the main blockers today in organizations to getting there?
Yeah, the world became remote, or it is currently like that. And actually, this asynchronous communication is getting more and more popular. And actually, we are not really used to that, because previously everybody was in the office, or we got the calls or phone calls, video calls, that. But these days, we have to count on different strategies, like asynchronous work. Everybody works different time zones. Style of work, you're at home, so you don't know, like you cannot just connect so much easily with your teammates. So that provides the problems with the thing that I call the feedback loop, which is very important. And of course, many companies not utilizing so much collaboration frameworks. It's like we all used to go into the driving school to drive on the streets where, many cars like somehow cooperate and not collide all the time. Well, sometimes, but still. So the same we can apply for the communication, because, we have to see that we need some sort of strategies, or at least some simple rules how teams can stay productive being remote.
Yeah, so Dmytro, perhaps for our listeners that aren't familiar with the feedback loop that you mentioned, can you briefly explain what you mean by that?
Yeah, sure. You have just two people, and one is asking questions and the second is answering them. So the information actually goes two ways. It goes from the first person to the second, and then what's interesting, then from the second to the first, because you just don't have to listen to somebody, which is very important, but you also have to provide some feedback, that you were heard, that the information is perceived by you, and so on. So this process, I call it feedback loop, and it has its own parameters. It could be quick, it could be fulfilled, it could be weak or long, you name it.
Yes, and something else I was wondering about, Dmytro, is you were talking about the asynchronous way of working. I've also heard companies that are distributed and they are actually time agnostic, so people can really decide themselves when they want to work, and the company doesn't care whether that's from 7 a.m. until 11 a.m. and then again in the evening from 8 p.m. until midnight, for instance. And you did mention that can cause some challenges when it comes to collaboration and communication. I think we all understand that. What I'm curious about, though, is do you maybe have some ways that companies can overcome these challenges when it comes to being asynchronous, or maybe time agnostic as well?
Yeah, there is no silver bullet in this question, unfortunately. However, it's all about rules. So, and it's all about the result that you would like to get. Being remote currently means that all these typical three functions of typical managers, like management, motivation, control, they just dissolve. How you can manage a remote team? They basically manage themselves. You just a little bit control them. Then motivation became a hot topic in the remote world. Happy hours, this kitchen talks, some team events. You go for the beer on the evening or sport event. It's all challenged. It's not like it's gone. Many people are doing these happy hours remotely and so on. However, it's changed. And the control by itself is not possible anymore because you don't have people in the office. So what you care about is the result. And now we have to focus on this new mantra, the result, how we are getting there. And getting there sometimes means that we have to understand that if there is a problem between two people, or the only more than one people involved into the problem, then this is the problem in collaboration.
I think that's such a good insight, Dmytro, and something that we've heard a bit on this podcast before is that, the things we've lived through the last year and a half, through the pandemic and everything, it's meant an even bigger focus from innovative companies on the outputs instead of just time spent at a desk or that kind of thing. And hearing you talk about that as well, it's like asynchronous and all these things you're talking about, it actually comes down to what is being produced at the end of the day, regardless of what time is spent or when it's spent doing it.
Exactly. And I think another thing, Joe, that we've also heard on season 1 of this podcast was that it is about trying to let go of this control element more and more. And really, it's about trust from managers towards the people in their teams that they will get the work done, that the output and the results will be there, but that you need to trust people that they will actually do that.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe a follow-up question to that, Dmytro, and slightly changing tack would be around your insights around what it takes to build and develop a great team these days. Do you have any insights on that?
Of course, for me, that's the first, it comes from the top to bottom. You have to understand your core values of your company. And on these core values and mission, you're building the team culture. And yeah, in this remote world, if you would like to have some productive team, and I can really state that because I'm a founder of 4 companies and not only one. So I see, few companies at the same time. I know that the great team is where you have this team body, and when you add their people, they should be mutually attached to that team body. So that happens when they share the company culture. And company cultures, they're always different. Some are really focused on goals that I personally think artificial, like we should be number 1, or we should, increase our profits for like 50% per year or something like that. Others are more natural, like we should do better products so that, we will be sold better and, we will become number 1 actually. Some companies like companies with the human face. Some companies are built for specific people. Let's say like developers build some tools for the developers, for example. But it's all around this company culture. If you are trying to add people who are not fit the company culture, whatever it is, usually, they will not go with you for a long. That's the thing.
Yeah, so that's the core really of building a great team in 2021, I think, is what I will take for that from that. So Dmytro, we initially discovered Chanty via a DigiDay article where you were quoted. And so the article was titled, "Coronavirus Pandemic Has More Employers Experimenting with 4-Day Work Week." Now, in that article, you're quoted as saying, "It's no longer interesting for a company when people are working, only what they produce when they are." I think that's interesting from a productivity standpoint. But what does that mean for collaboration and teamwork?
Sure. Yeah. Like you guys, but when I started to work from my home back then in March, I felt that I have really a lot of free time actually. You don't want to sleep. I mean, you stay awake for 3 a.m. I don't know why, because you are actually maybe not moving that much or for some other reasons. And I saw that in our team that people are started to change their behavior, because, your day schedule is really different. Your environment is really different, of course. Again, less time together, or actually no time together. In the same time, what people are doing when they have time, they either learn or they work or they trying to fulfill this time with something else. We thought that if you give this free opportunity to actually let people do what they want, it's about trust, yes. But it's also about control. So there is a set goal, there are milestones there. So we are measuring track of the progress, obviously. However, you can do whatever you want. I saw it first in France when I was living in France. In France, kids are not going to school sometimes on Wednesday. So I really like that idea because actually, you don't have so much burden. I was always thinking why we have this only 2 days of weekend and 5 days of work, where actually we can change that, and we can balance that more. So have 2 days of work, then 1 day where people are not working, and then for 2 days again when people are working. Given that, it might be that people actually will work more. So that was great experiment, and for most of the team who doesn't have so much operational work, so it means we cannot do that for the support, right? We cannot do this for people who are in the sales office because they have to pick up the phone, regular hours. However, for the conceptual teams and development teams, product teams, we can do that. And the focus became much more sharper on what they are doing because they dive deep in the morning and they stay longer. But in the same time, by having this focus on them, they provide better results.
Very interesting, Dmytro. One thing I'd love to explore a little bit there is what you mentioned, this balance, I think, between control from a business point of view, making sure people are getting the work done, I guess, and that flexibility. How do you strike that balance? What are some practical things? How do you know that it's the right balance between flexibility and the control that you kind of still need to have?
Yeah, of course. First of all, nobody likes this demand and pressure and micromanagement. It's just, it's natural. When somebody controls you, you have the, just natural resistance to that. So we are trying not to do this. Actually, we are not doing this, only in some exceptional situations when something goes really wrong. And then there is some micromanagement because there is a responsible person who can really have to control everything because this person is responsible. However, the success of any project is when you understand your end goal. So no matter what you are doing, you should have to understand what will be the outcome because you have to measure success somehow. So when we plan something new, we are forming this goal, some understanding what's the measure of success there, and then we can see the path how we are going there. Yes, and then we can split this path on the few steps where actually we understand, are we moving with the right pace? Is it moving too fast? Is it moving too slow? What are the outcomes? And also, what's important, we need these milestones to understand, are we actually going into the right direction? Because when we, at the very beginning, trying to form some goal and the KPIs for, let's say, success of this goal, we have not so much experience into this topic in comparison to what we have when we actually started to build in it. You see? So once we get more experience, we have to also revise our expectations and maybe change something.
Yeah, I think that's a good one.
I agree.
Dmitry, slightly changing tack here. So when we think about the period that we're currently still in, at least a lot of us are, one of the great ironies that we are living through is that especially virtual meetings, they can sometimes not be great for collaboration and productivity, to put it mildly. So in your opinion, what makes for a good meeting? Do you have some best practices?
Look, we are doing video meetings only if it couldn't be somehow solved asynchronously. So usually that's a point where we have no responsible person for some question, or we have shared responsibility for some question. So then we clearly set the goal of the meeting. We also trying to be really short on time. Our longest meeting is 30 minutes. Usually we are making 15 minutes calls. Everybody should be prepared. So there are preparation materials shared with the stakeholders asynchronously. And then we came already prepared to share thoughts, and the goal is to find a solution or to set the person who will be responsible for the solution. We barely discuss something, abstract, I would say, and we really prefer the visual way of communication. So it means if you can make a mind map, if you can make a flow chart or some kind of a table or something like that, that really helps. That really, really helps.
Yeah, and it seems to be more and more a thing that, like you're saying there, Dmytro, in terms of meetings kind of being the last resort. If we can't sort it out, in other ways, let's have a meeting. But I think that's such a shift from a lot of traditional companies that have meetings about meetings and they have a meeting to plan the next meeting. But personally, I think that's brilliant because, if you've worked for a good amount of time, a few years, you know that you sit through so many meetings that don't have to be meetings, right?
Exactly. And, from the balance point of view, this is just killing your balance sheet because when you have people synchronously sitting there, you are really wasting their time. And I've been working in the corporation previously, and, there are some 17 top managers are sitting in the same room for 3 hours. It's counterproductive. So I know what it is on my skin.
I think a sense that, time is this thing that we can't ever get more time. So you've got to really, focus on how you get the most out of the time you have. Sorry, Neely, I kind of interrupted you there.
No, you didn't. So I was wondering, Dmytro, about something. How is your decision-making process then at Chanty? Is that also asynchronous?
Yes, we are really trying to be asynchronous. Look, we have pretty much all decision coming from the bottom up. So there are some people in our company who are specialized in some specific disciplines or they have the area of responsibility. We barely have any in our team of 30 people who doesn't have any area of responsibility. Yeah, so then I set the biggest goals. We're actually utilizing the OKR, if you know what it is, objective and key results. I set the biggest goals, and then, we three view, split them on the smaller goals. Everybody understands their goals. Everybody understands what are the upper goals, what's our ultimate goal, and what our North Star, so-called. So it's coming from there. We don't have a culture where actually a boss can, take some ultimate decision, which will be counter decision from the person, from the area of responsibility. So it's all very important. We all, following our vision, and the secret about being successful in vision is that you really have to go there. And if you are interrupted on this path, actually you are making steps, on the sides from your vision. So that's very important that even on regular positions, people, will get to their vision and their goals.
Nice. I like how you mentioned, there are two things I really like about this. First of all, that it's that decision making really is from the bottom up, as you said, I believe. And then what I liked, you mentioned our North Star. Yeah. What's that, Dmytro? I think I have an idea, but still, it's the first time I think I actually hear someone mention it.
Yeah, look, you go somewhere, like a samurai, you have just a path. You don't have a your destination. It's about how you set the goals. And this is at the core of OKR, by the way. If you set the goal, which is so much easily can be achieved, that it was not good. If you set the goal which is too far away, you probably will miss it because it's too far away. But in the same time, you should know where are you going, And like working on any business, it means that you run the machine, which is always working and it's going somewhere. If you are not progressing, you are actually digressing, So that's why you're always going there. And you should know where you go. So you need your North Star.
Yes. And that sense that, you might not know the final destination, but you know the direction. And if people are aligned with that, coming back to the topic of collaboration, I think if it just makes sense logically that if people know and are aligned on where they're headed, that North Star, that they're going to be more prepared to collaborate and to put their ideas in the mix and to lean into that. Because I think there's two sides of collaboration, right? It's like, how do you make it work practically? Like we talk about meetings and tools and things, but then it actually takes like an effort and like a lean in and for people to like want to collaborate as well.
Yes, this North Star is it's like your company mission. Every company has its own mission, be it, provide the best service in the collaboration market for the customers, or provide the best communication platform, or reduce the costs of communication of your clients, or be number one business in the area. Whatsoever, like you can have different company missions, but in the same time, when it's populated between your employees, between your team, and they truly believe that they're actually doing their work, they're doing their efforts, they live with this idea, then everybody naturally trying, to tend to go into this direction. Their mindset is going to that direction. You just have to put this idea into their minds.
Yeah, I think we could say that there's actually various ingredients for successful and effective collaboration. I think it's very true what you said, Joe. We have on the one hand the practical side of things, which can now be challenged because we are more remote than we were before. And I think what Dmytro mentioned is we need to have this shared mission that we are on, and we need to also therefore share the same kind of values. And then there is, I think, a third element of collaboration, and we talked about that a little bit before we had this conversation, Joe, and that's like everybody is different, everybody has preferred styles of communication, right, and things that they react to in a better way. And I think that's also something to take into account, that, the way I like to work might not be your preferred way of working. So I think there's these three elements that together totally, they make for a really successful collaboration.
Yeah. Yeah, three good things to keep in mind. Yes, Dmytro, I think we kind of got the last couple of questions here. So this has already been a fantastic conversation. So thanks again for your time. You share a lot on LinkedIn, and I'd encourage our listeners to follow you on LinkedIn because great content, Dmytro. But you shared recently on LinkedIn something that I found interesting. You talked about this research from SMARP that shows that 60% of companies don't have a long-term strategy for their internal communications. So really focusing on that internal communications. I wanted to ask you, what do you think the role of that internal comms is in effective collaboration or teamwork?
There are a few ways how I can answer this question, but I would probably answer from business perspective. You have the run rate of your team or your business unit. In corporations, you cannot judge, like it's too big to count the run rate. But if you are like a small company, or if you're just department of some corporation, you have this run rate of how much money you spend each, let's say, month on your team, which is producing some value, some product. So now, if you are not communicating efficiently between each other, you are slowing down your progress. So it means that your run rate is actually the same, but the value which is generated by the team is smaller. And it's smaller because you're making your decisions slower, I don't know. Instead of just writing something to chat, you send the email that was answered in one day. It's an obvious reason, with the like difference in the speed between like just exchanging some information. And also the execution became slower. So that's why if your team doesn't have some internal rules of communication, you are just became less productive. Yeah, it could be, I don't know, less productive for 10% or for 100%, but just imagine that you have like your fixed burn rate, this run rate of your team, but in the same time, your productivity is really, varying from how efficiently, how fast you can solve your problems, challenges, and how soon you can find the decisions, and go from, let's say, from the ideation stage of your project to the execution or to the delivery stage of your project. Like in any business, it's almost the same. So yeah, for me, it's kind of important, and I'm building software for that, so I believe into that.
Yeah, that's a good point that you're building software for that. So Dmytro, one thing we always like to ask our guests at the end of every episode is if there is one challenge that they would like to leave our listeners with. So do you have a challenge for our listeners?
Look, I think the challenge that I can suggest, given the context of our conversations, try to not to make any meetings for a week. Try to solve all the problems in some asynchronous way, and see how it goes. Just be creative. Try to find different ways how you can collaborate, be it visual or, I don't know, some text or something other. Send the video messages, why not? But try to avoid synchronous communication for a week and see the result.
That's a great challenge. Are you going to try that one, Neely?
I guess I can try it. Yeah, I guess I can.
We're going to have to convince some other people that they should also try it.
Yes. Try to have no meetings for a week.
I
love it.
No meetings for a week.
Yeah.
I would.
No, man.
What a great week. I mean, you have good meetings sometimes, but the majority of meetings, let's be honest, they're not great. So that would be a great tip. Thank you so much, Dmytro. That's all the time we have today, but it was brilliant to have you on the podcast. And we're going to be following Chanty's progress and your mission to build that great collaborative platform from now on. So that's so cool and great learning about it. Before we do leave you listeners, we just wanted to encourage you that if you have enjoyed this episode, please do share it with a friend, hit the subscribe button wherever you're listening, and spread the word about our podcast. Otherwise, we're going to see you again next week.
Bye.
Bye.